So welcome to our Wednesday morning ride. Today's date is the 7th of October 2020, and we normally call our Wednesday morning ride a hill day because it takes us through the hills and villages and Island Harbor. And this is the day where we say it normally separates the elephant from the mountain goats because, as you know, a mountain goat can't, sorry, an elephant can't climb a hill. So the guys are just basically passing government headquarters, heading to the stoplight by Amber Lake. And the other part of the ride is just mostly like a warm up, so the guys can get their legs started out. And then the action normally starts to happen, just after the roundabout in Shoalway. That's where some of the younger guys are trying to create some separations in the group. Now, the group is made up of, quite a diverse set of cyclists because you have some of the younger guys that, we see on the local scene quite often. And then you have some older guys that just basically do it, for recreation and exercise. But because the route is so short, it's a little bit competitive. So some of the older guys are able to hang on and stay with the younger guys. So here they are now, just passing the stoplight, and I don't know the name of all the cyclists, but I'll try to identify as much as I could. The lighting is a little bit poor for now, but I believe later in the ride, as the sun starts to rise, the lighting should get a lot better, so would make things a whole lot easier. So here we have in front of us the guy in the back. That's a young cyclist by the name of Mikhaila. Next to him, the guy in the blue, I don't know his name, but I know he's Eric Carter's son. And the guy just ahead in the orange, that's a guy by the name of Devon, and he's representing the Angler group. The Angler group is quite large, but he's the only one that seems to be brave enough to come and ride with the morning riders, so I must give him credit for that. So the guys are just, as I said, they're just warming up their legs, and they're going along. If you look in the back, the rear camera, that's Alex Adams with a light on his head, and we call him the chemist, the pharmacist. And he knows why we call him that, but always has something up his sleeve. If you look just ahead, the guy on the right in black, I think there's a black and red jersey. That's Brad. He used to be a mountain goat, but he took a break, and I think now he's back with the elephants. So I don't think he's gonna get too much of a highlight too long. Just ahead of him is Carlos, and to the right of Brad, also in black, just ahead of Devon in orange, that's Clyde. At this time, I would just also like to give a shout out to Chris Lloyd. He was a regular member of the group, but he's currently recovering, and just want to wish him a speedy recovery, and looking forward to seeing him, sometime in the near future back out with us. So here they are, passing the stoplight in Stony Ground. Still have quite a bit before we get to the Shoalway roundabout, and as I said, the ride is going to be pretty easy up to that point, and then afterwards, things are going to start to heat up. So I'll just identify the cyclists as I can see them. As I said, I don't know the names of everyone, but I'll try to identify as much as I can. If you look just on the right-hand side, the guy in the blue, there's a guy in blue on the right-hand side up front. That's Julian Hughes, and we call him Pilo. I personally prefer the name Pilo because it sounds like a French Tour de France rider. He's one of our strongest cyclists. I would say the number of cyclists out today was roughly about 40, but we've had groups that were a lot larger. But it fluctuates. I guess depends on people's schedule and so on. Fridays are normally our biggest. That's when our biggest group comes out, and I've seen maybe as much as 60. Guys would come out and do the Friday morning ride. The difference between the Wednesday and the Friday morning ride is the Friday is mostly like a flat, constantly hard pace. So that's a really really fast ride. But the Wednesdays are pretty competitive too because, as I said, when you get in the hills, that's when the pressure starts to build up. Uh, a lot of guys actually, kind of skip the Wednesdays because I guess not everybody, likes dealing with that kind of pressure. But I would say today is a pretty good turnout for all the guys. I think that's a pretty large number. It's not bad. So here they're still making their way through Stony Ground. I believe now they're passing the Yum Yum restaurant. Right, still riding relatively slow. I believe at this point, I believe Avery might be the one that was setting the pace. I could be wrong though. The cyclist on the left on the orange bike, I'm not too sure, but that looks like Alan. I could be wrong, but it looks like Alan. Then we have Vaughn in the blue and orange. He is our best cornering cyclist. I don't think there are many people that can corner like Vaughn. We always tell him that if we have a race with nothing but corners, he will beat everybody by far. The guy just ahead of him in the yellow and black jersey, that's Andy. Then we have Delroy, we just passed him in the blue. Delroy is our current national champion. There goes Delroy again, he's making a break, followed by Ericsson. So those guys are trying to get up to the front because there goes Nicole also. So I believe that they're heading up to the front because they want to start to, set the pace a little bit harder, start to make some gaps in the group. There we have, just look at Vaughn as he go around the roundabout. Look how smooth he just maneuvers around that roundabout. Like a hot knife through butter, real smooth. Alright, so it looks like some gaps are starting to create, the pace has started to pick up. And our cameraman is going to try to go up front to see what some of the action is happening there. So here we have Pilo. As you can see, the gaps are starting to create. The guys are now traveling at 50 kilometers per hour, so they picked up the speed quite a bit. And we're now starting to see some gaps. The guy that's just passed it, that's James. James has been riding really, really well recently. Been doing quite a lot of training. Then we have DA in the red. We just passed him. I haven't seen DA for a long time. It's good to see him out. Here goes James dipping by everybody. That guy that we're passing, no, that looked like Desron, the manager of Flow. He's also with the group on Wednesdays and Fridays. There we have Alex Adams in the green, out of Jersey. And there you have Mr. Avery Carl Thomas in the orange. That's the guy with the biggest mouth making all the noise. So you can see the guys are starting to get a little bit of pressure. Pace has dropped it down to 35 because they're going up a slight gradient of 4% at this point. Pretty good speed for the grade of the road at this point. So look like Desron has just dropped his mud hook. He is starting to go backwards. So is Fabrice. All those guys are dropping their mud hooks. I guess they're going to be what you consider the elephant group. And the cameraman is trying to get us a little bit closer. And there we have Alex Adams to the front, setting a very good pace, staying with the group. So now we're getting to the Welch's Hill, and this is where some of the action starts. The guy just ahead in the green and black jersey. I don't know his name, but I know he's a pretty good football player, so we'll call him Mr. Football for now. And he's followed by, I think that looks like Vaughn Hazel. Here we go. So Vaughn goes around Mr. Football. Looks like Mr. Football has just dropped his mud hook. I think he's going to go back to the group of elephants. And here we have a select group. I guess these are the guys that we consider the mountain goats as they start to go up the hill in Belgium. So just ahead of Vaughn to the right is Greg Hughes, setting a pretty good pace. Ericsson looked like he started to blow a little gasket, but I believe he should be able to hold on at some point. Then if you look to the back, the light on the head, that looks like Alex Adams. Looks like he's fighting for dear life, trying to hold on. And the guys are setting a pretty good pace. They're going up Welches at 30 kilometers an hour. That's not bad at all, pretty good. So you notice the difference between Vaughn and Greg. Greg is, out of his seat, pushing a little bit of a harder gear where Vaughn decides to stay on his seat and, doing more of a lighter gear, some cadence. Greg needs a little bit of a breather. The gap created, so Vaughn is going to close it up. Just ahead of Vaughn is Carlos, really strong cyclist in the group. And we actually call Carlos the leader of the group. He's the one that decides, when the guy should go and those kind of things. So here we're going to go down Welch's Hill. I believe we could get some pretty good speeds going now. At this point, I believe that there are probably about 10 of the farthest cyclists up ahead, and the rest of the guys will be trailing back. Unfortunately, we don't have a camera in the back, so you're not going to be able to see them until after the ride. So here they're doing up to 60 kilometers an hour, 65, 66. Getting some good speeds going on Welch's Hill. And there we have Kimi. Kimi has checked out. Kimi has checked out. Kimi has checked out. Kimi is going. And there goes Nikailan. Nikailan is saying, no, Kimi, we're not letting you go today. So Nikailan is closing down the gap and everybody else is following. So the pressure is really starting to build up here. Just ahead of Vaughn, you have Kylan. Kylan Fleming, very good, young, talented cyclist. So there's Vaughn taking a little bit of a water break. You have Carlos looking around just checking things, and then you have Alex Adams taking up the rear. So Kylan is out front now, setting the pace. He's doing all the groundwork. Heading towards Ellen Harbor. Starting to pick up the pace again. Going 42 kilometers an hour, going up a gradient at 3%. A little bit of a gap created to the guys behind, but I believe they should be able to catch that up at some point. And Kylan is doing all the groundwork at this point. Kylan is also a very, very good cyclist. And just behind the Kylan, you have James. There you have Kimi. Kimi has checked out. Kimi has checked out. And Delroy is following Kimi. Delroy is following Kimi. And there goes Kylan. So these guys are not letting anybody go at all. There goes Vaughn. And James is trying to hang on. Taking up the rear, you have Greg and Carlos. So they're not letting anybody go at all. They're just like, no, you're not going anywhere. Everybody has to stay together for this ride. So right now we're entering Island Harbor. And the guys are still basically all together. Don't think any of the guys have gotten dropped at this point, at least the ones that would have climbed Welch's Hill together up front. So coming up, we should have some action because we're just gonna we have a couple hills just after we pass the wharf in Island Harbor. So I believe we should see some action coming up at that point. Okay, so right now doing the groundwork we have Delroy and Kylan. Just behind them we have James and Kylan, and then we have Vaughn, the Yellow Joseph. So see if anybody's gonna check out at this point. And if you look just to the back, you have Eric's son in blue, so he was able to get back to the group, so that's good. And the guy with his shirt open, that's Kimi. Alright, so the guys are just passing the wharf, heading to the wharf in Island Harbor. And right now we have James doing the groundwork, so James is setting the pace, doing 30 kilometers an hour at this point. Just behind we have Eric's son, and followed by him we have Kimi. So James has pulled aside. James wants somebody else to do some work, so Kylan has stepped up to the plate. And then we have Vaughn following Kylan. So right now Kylan is setting a pretty good pace. He's doing 32 kilometers an hour, relatively flat, but just ahead we're going to be climbing some hills. The gradient is going to increase quite a bit. Okay, we've seen a little bit of a gap being created between Kylan and Vaughn. So I believe Vaughn has blown a gasket. He's getting ready to drop his mud hook. Kylan is creating a little bit of a gap. Eric's son is now trying to see if he can close the gap as they start to climb the hill. Following him is James, and there we have Kimi in the back. Kimi looks like he's getting ready to pounce. We have Vaughn trying to hang on for dear life, but he's dragging him mud hook. So the guys up front, that would be James, Kylan, and Eric's son. There you have Kylan and Delroy. And there goes Delroy. Delroy is checking out. Delroy is checking out. Delroy is checking out, and nobody can follow Delroy. Delroy has checked out. All these other guys look like they've blown their gaskets and trying to catch a fresh breath of air. But Delroy is going. I would say you have about a 50 meter distance ahead of the rest of the pack. And there goes Nick Kylan trying to see if he can close the gap to James and Kylan. And if you look in the back camera, you can see a bit of a gap being created. So here we have another little bit of a gap, but we'll see if these guys in the back will be able to close it at some point. But Delroy has gone. Delroy has gone. And now we have James up front, setting the pace, trying to close the gap down to Delroy. And in the back we have Kylan just hanging on. Setting a pretty good pace, gradient of 5%, and they're doing about 29 kilometers per hour going up the hill. Right, so James has pulled on the side and he's asking somebody else to give him a hand. So McClellan has stepped up to the plate and we can see there are lights just ahead flashing. Still have a relatively good lead, but I believe the guys should be able to close him down at some point. The guys in the rear are looking as if they're starting to close in on the group, so I believe everybody should come together at some point. So just ahead of us is McClellan, Erickson, and just behind is Kylan and James, and then the rest of the group trying to see if they can start their way back. Delroy still has a gap, but McClellan is still very slowly closing in. And they're also creating a gap on the guys behind, so but they look like they're starting to get back in. So here's Kylan in the back closing the group. You can see the rest of the guys did manage to get their way back. Quite a long line of guys. And here we have James. James is stepping up again. So James is like, no, I'm going to start to do the groundwork. We got to close in Delroy. So there goes James. McClellan goes with him, followed by Erickson. Pace are now 50 kilometers an hour. Bit of a downhill. So there, James was able to close back in Delroy. So Delroy is back with the group. So everybody's basically back together again. And there you have Kimi. Kimi looks like he's setting up an attack. There goes Kimi. Is Kimi going to hit a shot? Kimi hits a shot. Kimi has checked out. Kimi has checked out. Kimi has checked out. There we have Bevan. Bevan trying to close the gap, and Kylan also. James looks like he has blown a bit of a gasket, so he's going to need a breather. And there you have the rest of the guys. So there's Carlos, Vaughn, Greg. You have Erickson, and just to the back, holding on for dear life, is Alex Adams. So all the guys are basically back together. Now look what they have in the back of the camera. There's Mr. Pilo. There's Mr. Pilo coming around. Pilo, Mr. Pilo is saying, no man, these guys, I can't deal with these attacks. I can go set my own pace. So Pilo has checked out. Julian has checked out, and Julian is going to the front of the group. And nobody's following Julian. Julian is creating a gap. Pilo has created a gap. These guys have to be careful with Pilo, because once Pilo gets that bike going, he's like a train. You can't stop it. The guys are still letting him go, and Pilo has checked out. Pilo has gone. Pilo has gone. They're doing the groundwork to the front. Looks like Delroy. Here you have Menace in the black and white jersey, just ahead of James. To the right we have Alex in the Lotto bid. But nobody wants to go. Nobody wants to go. Everybody is just pooping. Nobody wants to go up front and do the groundwork. So Pilo is taking advantage of the situation, and Pilo has checked out. Pilo has checked out. These guys have to be careful with Pilo, because as I said, they're relatively on the flat now, and once Pilo gets that bike up and going, it's going to be hard to bring him back. See, there you have Mr. Anglick in the orange up front. He looks like he's starting to do some groundwork, trying to close in the gap. Somebody else would have checked out. I'm not sure who that is. But somebody is going to see if they can catch Pilo. And the rest of the guys are to the back. To the rear we have DA. I haven't seen DA for a long time, so it's really good to see DA. That's the guy in the back in the yellow socks. Welcome back, DA. And just ahead of him is the fella. I believe everybody's waiting on Delroy to see if Delroy is going to try to close in the gap, either Delroy or Kimi. But right now in this group, we have Devon, Mr. Anglick, setting the pace for the guys, trying to bring those two guys back. There's Julian and somebody else out front. I'm not sure who the other person is, but those guys that look like they have built quite a bit of a lead ahead of these guys. I can just see their red lights blinking way ahead of them. I'd say at least 200 meters ahead right now. You have Del Rio, our national champion in the blue and orange jersey, just coming back, checking out things. Probably looking at who's tired to see, who he can drop next. Taking a little bit of sip of water. All right, so Keeman look like he's had enough. Keeman look like he's going to start to set the groundwork to the front. So we're doing a relatively moderate pace, 32 kilometers per hour, gradient of -3%, so relatively slow. And so you have Keeman up front, setting the pace. You have Mr. Lotto, that's Alex Adams. All right, there goes Delroy. Delroy has checked out. Delroy is hitting a shot. Delroy has checked out. Is anybody going to be able to follow Delroy? Everybody else is starting to pick up the pace. They're now doing 36 kilometers an hour. Oh boy, Mr. Anglet Bevan, he looked like he's dropping his mud hook. He has blown a gasket. He has blown a gasket. He's riding backwards. He has hit a wall. I don't think we're going to be able to see him after this. So there he is. He has dropped his mud hook and he is riding backwards. Yeah, he can't deal with the pace at this point. Still making up the rear, we have Nick Cullen and DA. Alex Adams to the front. I believe Pilo and the other cyclists are still ahead. I don't think they've been able to close them in as yet, but they have picked up the pace, so I believe they might be able to bring them back. So here they're heading to the Sandy Hill roundabout now. And then after that, we're going to be heading on the home stretch, where they're going to be going to the long track, and then to the quarter, and then finishing by the JW Cocktail Supermarket. So you have Menace in the white, black, and blue jersey, just to the left. You have Greg up front. Greg has been riding pretty well recently. Hanging in there. And there's Greg trying to close in the gap to Carlos. Still don't think they've caught Pilo as yet. But as the camera moves ahead, we should be able to see what's happening up front. Right now, the guys are doing about 35 kilometers an hour, heading down the long track, relatively flat gradient. So you have Nick Cullen closing the gap. Delroy looks like he's taking a little bit of a breather. He's going to come back to the back of the group. Just making up the rear, we have Eric's son, Greg, and looks like Menace in the back of the group. So here we have about, of the 40 guys, maybe about 10 of the guys that were able to get away from the rest of the group. So these are what you would consider your mountain goats. And the guys in the back, I guess we consider them the elephants. So there we go, we have a little bit of a gap. And the Cullen is closing that in. Don't want to let anybody else get away. And there, oh, the guys did bring back Pilo. So there is Pilo. And right next to him looks like that's James. I believe most of the guys are relatively tired at this point, so we'll see if anybody else is going to be checking over the group and trying to create some more gaps. But for now, they're doing about 35 kilometers per hour in the long track, just passing Best Buy. So just ahead in the black jersey, that's Nick Cullen. Just behind him is Kylan Fleming. Those guys have created a small gap to the guys in the group, but I believe they should be able to close that back in because they're not really pressing too hard. And there you have Pilo, who was out front for quite a bit, but he's still doing the groundwork. As I said, that guy is a very strong cyclist. Once he gets his bike moving, it's difficult to stop him. And we have Carlos making up the rear of the group. All right, there goes Nick Cullen. Nick Cullen has checked out. Nick Cullen has checked out. And there goes Eric's son, has also checked out. And there goes James. There goes James. Kilo look like he has spent all his money, so he's just stepping back for a bit. But there goes Kylan. Kylan is going to try to see if he can close the gap. Those guys have created a bit of a gap. Let's see if they can close it in before they reach the finish line. And there goes Delroy. Delroy has checked out. Delroy has checked out. So Delroy is going to try to close the gap. Those guys are maybe about 100 meters ahead of this group right now. And we have Pilo. Pilo is doing all the groundwork. Pilo is doing all the groundwork. So Pilo is bringing them back in. Is he going to be able to bring them back in? There goes Pilo. Everybody is sheltering behind Pilo. Nobody wants to go out and do any work. Okay, Menace is going to help Pilo. So Menace goes ahead, trying to see if he can close down those three guys. So Menace is setting the pace right now. Right now they're doing about 40 kilometers an hour. And those guys, I would say, about 50 meters ahead. All right, Kylan is going to go up and give them a hand. But Menace is still doing most of the work, and there goes Kylan. So the guys look like they will be able to bring them back. They will be able to bring them back. And Kylan is doing the groundwork right now. A step at the pace of 40 kilometers an hour. And then we have Kimi. Kimi looks like he's trying to set up for an attack. He's blocked by Pilo. And there you have Kylan setting the pace, so they were able to bring them back. Making up the rear, you have Greg and you have DA. So we're relatively coming to the end of the race right now. I'm not sure if there's going to be a sprint because I think most of the guys are a bit tired, but somebody might try to get a win. That would normally be DA's role, but DA has been out for a bit, so he's not having legs. Alright, and then you have Hilo doing the groundwork again. There's a cyclist up front, but I'm not 100% sure who that is. But the guys are now doing about 37 kilometers an hour. Okay, and there goes Ericsson. Ericsson has checked out. Ericsson has checked out, and so has Kimi. Alright, so Ericsson has stopped, but Kimi is going, and they're going to try to close in that gap. And there goes Pilo. Pilo is trying to close the gap. DA is on the side trying to get away also. And there goes Delroy. Okay, so this is basically the end of the race. The guys now just stop after they pass the medical school. So they're just heading to the corner now, and you're just going to do a little bit of a warm down and wait for the elephants to come in. So thank you very much, and we look forward to having you here when you do the Friday morning race. Have a good day.